Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you might be tuning in from. A warm welcome. I would like to thank UNODC for providing this side event platform during the 11th session of the UNDOC's Conference of the Parties. And let me quickly introduce myself. I'm Edith Schlaffer, the founder and chair of Women Without Borders, headquartered in Vienna. So we are here today to talk about the central role women can and do play in the fight against extremist ideologies. Globally, we see the prevalence of leading drivers of radicalization and their power in destabilizing families and communities, including drug abuse and organized crime. We're also here today at a time of increasing global instability and uncertainty. The very factors that have driven vulnerabilities among youth are very much on the rise. We have the effects of the climate change, the pandemic, geopolitical earthquakes, rising inflation, all working in parallel. These conditions also make for an opportune breeding ground for violent extremist ideology. For a long time, we looked to the political elite for answers. Over time, however, it became very clear that civil society not only better understands these problems, local level stakeholders also have the access and reach to address these challenges. To talk about the power of community-led efforts today, we have three panelists with us from Zanzibar, India, and Bangladesh. Each will speak about the drivers of radicalization that they see in their communities and the vital role of women in countering and preventing such radicalization efforts. They will draw on their experience of implementing Women Without Borders Mother School's Parenting for Peace model that empowers women to become leaders and security allies in their families and communities. This model, which has been rolled out in 17 countries so far, is an educational prevention program that provides confidence and competence training to groups of mothers of adolescents and young adults who want to position themselves as safeguarding actors in their families and communities. Since we use a community-based approach for implementing mother schools, we greatly value the work of our partners on the ground. As organizations already working in these communities, our partners have the access to and the trust of the mothers and are able to reach the target groups that affect change through the program. So during the side event, we will be hearing from our three esteemed panelists, all leading the local implementation of mother schools programs. And with the side events, we are aiming to highlight the need for effective and tangible solutions in tackling problems of radicalization, extremism, and organized crime from the bottom up. We will hear from our partners about how mothers have a role to play and do now play a role in preventing the spread of violence. So without further ado, we will now have the privilege to hear from our first speaker, Madame Shadia Karume from Zanzibar. Madame Shadia was the First Lady of Zanzibar from 2000 to 2010, and in 1998, she founded ZAEDESA, the Zanzibar Youth Education Environment Development Support Association. It's a non-profit organization in Zanzibar with whom we have been working with since 2008 already. The organization's mission is to tackle the socioeconomic problems facing youth, including combating health issues and promoting employment, entrepreneurship, continuous education, and environmental protection. From the outset, Madame Shadia has emphasized the importance of building up Zanzibar's female talent pool and safeguarding women across both islands. ZAEDESA devotes much of its resources to gender-based programming, and owing to her commitment to advancing social welfare and creating educational opportunities, she has been honored through several awards, including the Certificate for Efforts to Eradicate Poverty in Housing by UN Habitat for Humanity. So we are very proud and happy to have Madame Shadia with us today. Please, the floor is yours now.
It's muted.
Yeah, you're unmuted now.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Yes. Good afternoon, Dr. Edith. Greetings to all women at the borders and the stakeholders. Have a good day. I'm indeed honored to be part of this Women Without Borders side event on community role in the prevention of extremism within our societies. And I also appreciate the healthy collaboration we have with Women Without Borders since 2008, when we joined hands in the struggle for global peace. Thank you, Dr. Edith. We appreciate your hard work, plus the Women Without Borders team. Political and religious radicalization that manifests itself in the extremist activity is driven by multiple factors, depending on the prevailing environment. In developing countries such as Zanzibar, Tanzania, the prevalence of high rate of poverty is a fertile ground for youth to be radicalized and hence easy targets for recruitment by extremist groups. Parents and guardians spend many hours fending for the livelihood of their families, hence lack time to be close to their growing up children who are already disappointed by their harsh living condition and lack of economic opportunities. Also, the youth have social challenges within the family, such as divorces and grievances of death of both parents or one parent as an easy target. When such youth are exposed to misguided promises for better life opportunities, they become the target of recruitment by extremist group or participate in other criminal activities. Likewise, ignorance of the youth about the negative impacts of extremism, extremist action to their families, societies, and the world at large make them an easy target for misinformation. Families end up to be the barriers and the burden left behind by the departed children or fathers. They suffer psychologically and economically by losing their economically able children and partners. That being the case, women, mothers can be the vanguard in the war against radicalization and extremism, only if they are made aware of their abilities and roles. Mothers being the forefront of upbringing of their children know better the psychology and thinking of their children. What is needed is to empower them on the drivers that prompt the children to join the extremist groups. With the right tools, mothers can be an effective force against radicalization. Zaidesa, in collaboration with Women Without Borders, has of yet conducted 4 trainings to build the capacity of mothers against radicalization. The training program organized in Vienna and tailored towards our Zanzibar traditions and culture has reached over 600 mothers who are ready to be ambassadors of parenting for peace and who are already reaching other mothers in their communities through Mother Circles initiative. Practical examples provided by participating mothers during the trainings attest to the correctness of the decision to empower mothers. One of the mothers during the training sessions, a mother from Mahonda group in North District, explained that after observing her son showing signs of behavior change that consisted of self-isolation in his room, the desire to leave the country to follow his fellow friends, even if he doesn't know where they are, and display of much anger towards his family. The mother decided to withhold his birth certificate and passport and thought best to take the matter to the local sheriff to help talk to her son. Miraculously, her son was willing to listen to the guidance and advice shared to him about the dangers of extremist ideologies and radicalization. Another story was from a mother of Kiswandui group who shared her story that her husband traveled to Tanzania mainland to find a better life for them. However, the family could not reach him, but once through his friend managed to send some money, and that was the last time they ever heard from him. There's been 7 years since they had any contact with him. This lady qualified for mother's school because she has adolescent children and she does not want her life story to repeat again. She believes the awareness given on this program has given her new hope to face life and raise and protect her children from negative influence of extremism and other criminal activities in our societies. What needs to be emphasized in the future is the expansion of the program to reach more mothers in our 2 main islands of Unguja and Pemba. It is also imperative to reach groups of fathers by organizing and conducting seminars and workshops for the aim of raising their awareness on how negative global forces can take advantage of their lack of information and hence jeopardize the prevalence of peace, harmony, social, political, and religious tolerance in our society, which can be a hindrance to the speed of our development. The involvement of local central government agencies and the media is also imperative for the success of Mother Schools program by building trust between security agencies, media, and the population. Thank you, Dr. Edith. This is my statement. Michelle, the young gentleman from Bangladesh, all of them, the ladies, thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Shadia. You know, we value our long-term partnership and thank you very much for your nuanced and absolute powerful contribution. And now I would like to move to Diana Joseph. We will now hear from Diana Joseph in India, director of the Fourth Wave Foundation. Fourth Wave Foundation is an organization calling for social change. It is focused on education, empowerment, and inclusion in the marginalized, unrecognized, and ignored segments of society. At Women Without Borders, we have been working with Fourth Wave Foundation since 2020 on implementing the mother schools in Kerala. Throughout her career, Diana Joseph has made significant contributions in the development sector, specifically working on child rights, safety, protection issues, and her work is testimonial to prove that change is possible on very difficult issues faced by communities. Over the past 15 years, she has represented her work at international organizations, and she represents Asia as a board member with the World Federation Against Drugs. And Diana has co-authored also several articles in journals and presented papers at international forums. And in 2019, she was recognized as one of the 50 most influential people in Kerala. So it's an honor, a pleasure. Please, Diana, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Edith. And this is a wonderful evening for us here in India to be sharing this time with all of you. I take a minute to explain the current market problems here in India and then get into the work that we've been doing. So there's a kind of a strange and new unusual market unfolding in India. And what we're seeing here is a reinforced and a macroeconomic landscape of a supply excess of narcotics, drugs, synthetic opioids, off-the-counter medications that the Indian population is taking to. We are considered as the 5th largest growing economy in the world and probably the 2nd largest demography of youth and youngsters in the world. So that's a huge population that we really seriously are worried about, who are now open and vulnerable to the problem of narcotics and drugs. As across the world, I think India is also at a juncture where we see that there is the supply excess is driving the demand here because we are a nation strategically placed between the golden crescent and what we call the golden triangle logistically, and we become a trading route. So there's a supply reserve that has kind of also landed in Kerala, which is a very strategic transit point down south by maritime borders. And we've had consecutive floods since 2018, and then the pandemic happened across the world. The world is shut down. There's been restrictions on transit. And all of these goods that move in and out illegitimately through our borders have been stuck in the country. What has happened is the world has opened up, but the goods are still lying here, and it's being released into the local market, targeting our young populations. And a great number of our youngsters are taking to drugs and narcotics because they are targeted to mule or carry it or become carriers of it. So we are facing a very strange phenomenon of our youngsters taking to the habits of narcotics and drugs. And this is also leading to very targeted trafficking and attracting youngsters into organized crime. And that's when the meeting with Edith happened, and our mother schools discussion unfolded. Very timely, we should say. And what we've seen is that the mothers are the first line of defense in successfully preventing children and youth from substance abuse. Very often mothers are unaware that their time, their effort, their work with children are predominantly reasons that would keep children away from organized crime and keep the family together, and build the trust within the family members to share their fears and worries. This fosters a safe, nurturing environment and creates a very healthy home is something that we had to re-emphasize. And adapting a prevention approach within a community kind of requires a lot of optimism, energy, specialist skills that not one individual in a family, a household, or a community may have. And we often understand that as a group of citizens, we can jointly develop kind of organic ways to work within communities to take care of our growing population and the young adults. This approach by Project Vanda, with the support of the Women Without Borders Mother Schools, has actually mapped an increased ability among teens and youth to manage their health, increased choices for seeking healthy behaviors, kind of addressing their care needs, and leading them to make healthy choices in life as well. While the mothers have been leading this, we see that we have a lot of resilient stories within these communities. We see mothers, young girls, women, all starting to become influencers of change within their communities. Greatly to the curriculum that you have developed at the mother schools, that we are able to contextualize it to our Kerala specific community needs that revolve around trafficking of drugs and trafficking of persons. And we also want to cite one example where these communities really don't let the girls come out and play sport. Forget playing football, which is a most desired game for all communities across boys, girls, young adults. All of them love football, but girls are not allowed to play. In a community where 5 years ago we didn't have girls coming out to play, today we boast about 32 girls teams from these high-risk locations that we've run the mother schools in. Thanks to you as well, Edith and the team, for promoting and getting this trust within the communities to even let their girls come out and play. So we're working from a bottom-up approach, empowering female leaders. We are empowering leaders of tomorrow at the individual community, and I see at the global level as well with the mother schools. And Women Without Borders growing parenting for peace movement builds resilience in homes and regions, and we are testimonial to it. And we see that vulnerable and extremist situations are heightened around the globe as we speak. And we believe that mothers are the change makers, and what we run through with the program with you is a very evidence-based program to prove that mothers and women play a serious role in their communities. Thank you so much to the Mother Schools team.
Diana, thank you so much for your contribution. Very powerful, making the connection between the private sphere and the change-making potential of those who inhabit this private sphere in the environment, which provides so many challenges and dangers, as you have highlighted. And I think we are beyond early warning signs. It's high noon that we take all of this seriously. And thank you very much, highlighting the surrounding issues and drivers and push factors, which are really worrisome for the global community and global connectivity. Thank you. And now I would like to draw your attention to Monzurul Alam, our partner in Indonesia. We will hear from him. He is a deputy program manager at the Manusia Jono Foundation. The MGF is a non-profit organization in Bangladesh that works with local organizations to improve the well-being of poor and marginalized communities. We have been working with them since 2018 on implementing mother schools programs in Dhaka. Throughout his career, Monzurul has focused on mental health, on education, and violent extremism. He has worked with youth and women's groups who are most vulnerable in facing multiple challenges in their communities. So his expertise is in community engagement, aiming to gather information about the needs of the community to serve them most effectively. So Monzo, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Edith. Good morning, good evening, everyone. In the Bangladesh context, I would actually share the experiences that I actually have evidence in implementing the mother schools projects. So in the Bangladeshi context, the leading drivers of radicalizations are poverty, lack of deep understanding on the radicalization issues, unemployment, and the hiding of issues. In most of the cases, both father and mother go outside of work, leaving their children alone at home. Particularly, it is very common among the slum dwellers, where they do it for ensuring their necessities, which is always their first priority. When the parents get back from home, they usually become very tired, and they have to concentrate on household and getting prepared for the next working day. For that reason, the parents actually cannot keep regular update on their children on how they actually spend their time at home. Another reason is most of the time men think keeping updated on the children is the responsibility of their female counterparts. This extra pressure is most of the time on the mothers and at their cost. In general, however, neither mothers nor fathers are prepared to deal with issues of radicalization. Even if they see it, they do not have the awareness of how serious it could be. But even if anyone within the community sees how serious it is and wants to address the issue of radicalization, they also do not feel safe to disclose that in public and abstain from sharing this with the concerned authority. Most of the times, they don't take this issue seriously. Rather, they consider this is an issue of misunderstanding or misleading. In our country and in the society, mothers can be our great hope in starting the process to change this widespread lack of awareness and action to prevent extremism. Mothers are often the first informal institution for their children. Children we see often feel safer, more confident, and more comfortable of any issue in front of their mothers. It doesn't matter how severe the issue is. Even children raise more of their demands of their mothers at first. Alternatively, the mothers in every community have an agency of communication with their peers, which is also a way of getting and disseminating information. Their communication potential can change attitudes in communities if they have the confidence, knowledge, and authority. From our last few years' experience of working with mothers, we saw they are enthusiastic to know more about the well-being of their children. For other reasons, mothers may remain inactive in playing decision-making role. But we see that when they want to learn more about protecting their children, to pay attention to this, whether they belong to a well-off or a poorer family. Furthermore, mothers are seen by many as the hub of their children. They remain aware of where they play, where they go, whom they spend time, etc. To my understanding, mothers are often the closest to possibly witness warning signs of their children. If they are aware of what they look for, In addition, to participate in any external meeting or get-together event, mothers are expected to join as a guardian of their children. Through this process, the belongingness of every mother to their children is significantly quite substantial. Keeping all these things in consideration, I believe the mothers have the great ability to safeguard their families and their communities, and to get them all involved in these efforts to share the work of making their families and communities a safe place for current and future generations. I can share you a story in brief, which is about a school-going boy who has shared a story to his mother. And the story was about his friend who extended his friendship with a group who were even more senior to him. They exchanged some so-called religious books to read. They had created a WhatsApp group, and almost every day at midnight, I repeat, at midnight, they poked each other and performed some religious activities which are not actually mandatory for anyone in every night, but they did it. However, they were doing some activities which actually indicates the early signs of radicalizations. And when the mother knew this story from her son, she immediately talked to the mother of that boy. Then the story turns in different shapes, which I'm not sharing right now. But the moral of the story is, when mother knows about the parenting, that she can be a good friend to her children, and her children may feel safe to share every incident to their mother at first. And when a mother is confident to identify the early signs of radicalization, she can translate her confidence into competence, and her competency may allow to perform in action. And when the actions are executed, the chance of being radical or extremist is lessened. This is how mothers are playing very vital role in combating violence and extremism in the family and in the community. Let me talk about the Mother Schools project in Bangladesh, which created a space for mothers to share their untold stories, as well as to get knowledge and information about parenting for peace. In Mother Schools, mothers joined weekly sessions which capacitated them in recognizing their potentiality and also to finding out their individual identity. We saw Mother Schools participants became stronger and powerful in making decisions for themselves, which also made many dare look at their own personal development. This is making many became aware of how their own stronger identity can also support their children as being role model to them, that they can make decisions as a woman, not let others make it for them. In a security role, this showed how they could make decisions and put this confidence into action. Because, for example, some mothers withdrew their children from some some specific educational institutions where their children were taught some radical education and practices. Not only that, some mothers were joining some in-house monthly meetings within their household, which was facilitated by an outside women who had a specific agenda about to spread radical and extremist propaganda. The mothers discovered to listen to their own needs and could therefore see and take such decisions with confidence to protect not only themselves, but also their children. After the mother school sessions, many mothers refused to participate in those in-house sessions. And in addition, some mothers were actually able to stop the meetings within their community. Most importantly, mothers are now sharing and discussing with their husbands about the well-being of their children and also their issues concerning the family matters. The mothers realize that their husbands can share the work in parenting, and the fathers have started getting involved. It is a process showing the empowerment of women that starts with a safe group and goes step by step to positive change. We have many more live evidence about the empowerment of the mothers who are playing a vital role in preventing violent extremism in the country. I would like to end with three main recommendations for Bangladesh based on the progress we have seen in Bangladesh with mothers. So first of all, we should continue to expand the special focus on mothers and therefore ensure that their leadership Their participation in decision-making process and empowerment grows into more aspects of their life beyond motherhood. Secondly, it is time for men to also take on and share the parenting and security work in families and communities. The good work of the mothers has made many fathers curious to also become involved and start becoming a part of the parenting for peace movement in Bangladesh. Thirdly, the government and the development organizations should invest more on combating violence and extremism. For Bangladesh, we need to plan projects of religious tolerance that substantially promote pluralism and acceptance to the other opinions. I want to stop here, and I would like to thank everyone for listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Monzo, for your input, for your presentation. Very powerful words, and I think what you kind of translated in an excellent manner was the power of connectivity, bringing mothers together, reflect on their identity, reflect on their potential, and start making change step by step. This is a long-term process. We can't assume that we can turn mothers or any community stakeholders in rapid change makers. I think this is actually the task of a lifelong task, and we're embarking on a lifelong journey of educating for peace. And education is one of the sharpest tools, and I would even say weapons we have, and we should use it for good. And we're all together here to do that. So I would like to open the discussion among the panelists on the panel, and let me allow me to start with the presentation of Madame Shadia. You said that there were accounts in the media recently of young people disappearing from Zanzibar, allegedly to join terror groups. And it's really interesting what kind of discussion this incident sparked in Zanzibar, and what kind of efforts do you think are needed to prevent this from happening again?
I'm not very good with the new technology. Sorry, Dr. Edith. Can you hear me now? Now I can hear. It's okay. Yeah. Okay. Yes, Dr. Edith. There have been reports of a young Zanzibari disappearing allegedly to join terror groups. Was openly covered by the local media in Zanzibar, and also the mothers. They had the guts to come into the open and said that our children or our husband have disappeared. And this have been taken very seriously in Zanzibar. Up to now, about 17 young men have disappeared from different families, but they all come from the urban area. We don't know about the other areas, but at the moment, those people who came into the open, who had the guts to talk about it, were from the urban areas. And it was the mothers who started to discuss it and talk to the media. But then the issue was openly discussed by the public. What is going on, what is happening. And on the part of the government of Zanzibar, the government of Zanzibar took it very seriously. So the police force spoke with the media, confirming the incident aired by the affected mothers. The police assured the public that it is working to a certain to a certain identity of the youth, where they went, and who or which agency assisted in the disappearance of these 17 young men. So these 17 young men who have disappeared from different families, the whole of Zanzibar, because it's a small place, communication is very easy, has been taken very seriously. And our government is doing a lot of investigations. But up to now, the information haven't been come out what really happened to these 17 young men. But from what the police informed them, the public, that they're doing a great job. And because of the seriousness and the delicacy of the situation, they don't like a lot of people to interfere into the investigation. So the public have understood that, the families have understood that, and I think things are moving forward. But the incidents has helped to awaken the public on the need to be vigilant in following up the behaviors of their children and who they associate with. However, the best thing we can do together, all stakeholders of this program, is to work together and share ideas to promote employment, entrepreneurship for women, youth, especially the younger generation, and never get tired to support our government's initiatives on educating more girls and women. I think this is my idea of how to help to reduce this this problem that we have, but it is taken seriously. Thank you, Dr. Edith. And if you have any more questions, I'm ready to.
Thank you so much for providing these insights. They are important. And as you say, it was covered by the local media. We did not hear so much on the international,
Yes.
In the international space, but still this kind of communication now between local and international stakeholders is extremely important to understand, you know, how we can move forward together, what are the challenges in the various geographies, and what you are recommending at the end is, I think, really timely. We need a whole of community and whole of government approach. So this is important that we all understand that we're part of this effort. And talking about the role of the international community, I would like to move on to Diana. When I mean, you highlighted the problems, you gave us in a very nuanced way a feel for the problems you're facing in Kerala. So what role do you think that the international community should play in your efforts containing the, I think I'm careful, emerging threats? I think it's more than emerging, the current threats you're facing in Kerala.
From the way we see it, the international community's voice and solidarity on issues like these that we're discussing right now is in itself going to bring a lot of attention to these issues. So countries like us face it in isolation, but the very fact that we discuss it at international forums, platforms, and bring our cases to the table and be encouraged by countries who face similar problems kind of brings a lot of solidarity to the issue, and that's a wonderful first step. I was listening to the executive director, Madam Gadawali's message yesterday at the opening of the 11th session of the UNTALK, and there she clearly talks about the geopolitical changes that's happening across the world, and how the UNTALK preventive measures are actually helping victims and people at risk across the globe. These conventions are great, but these can be leveraged to address the growing global momentum of change that is causing all of these issues around trafficking and organized crime and radicalism. And state parties can also work together to identify these gaps and address it and bring it to the grassroots levels where we actually work as civil society organizations. So two clear things. One is, it would be wonderful for international communities to have these discussions and share best practices like we are doing right now about the mother schools. And this kind of helps us manage, tackle, and address issues at our regional levels. That's the large country of India that I represent, but a very smaller section of the state that I come from. So it's very relevant to that grassroots context. And the second would be it would be good for us to consider forming regional specific working groups. So if we have specific issues, then working groups around those specific issues so that we come together and share best practices will be grateful as an international community, kind of to work on prevention strategies and address these problems that are specific to us. I hope I answered that.
I think you answered it in a very holistic fashion. I thank you so much also for your recommendations. This is important that we really take a very tangible step-by-step approach how to make the necessary change and raise the awareness that's necessary to step into the action-based strategic space, I would say. Monzu, you highlighted the necessity of bringing fathers on board, and I thank you very much for highlighting this. When we started the mother schools, nobody thought it would be possible to include and involve fathers because they are more hands-off and not really willing to engage. So what do you think, since you're very optimistic, bringing fathers into the picture, what would be the impact of involving fathers in Bangladesh in your communities in violence prevention efforts? What kind of effect might this have, and what would be the extra layer of change that would be introduced by the involvement of fathers?
First of all, the role of parents, both father and mother, are equally important in preventing violent extremism. In our socio-economic structure, father and mother have different roles to perform in the family, but most of them, they are too busy for their livelihood outside of their home. So there is a long gap between the parents and their children, meeting each other, particularly in the daytime. And when they meet, especially the children actually expect a quality time to spend their parents, including the father and the mother. So if fathers do not have proper parenting skill, they would not actually build effective communication with their children. And this lack may drive their children to follow some radical thoughts or some practices. In responding to the violent extremism issue at large, we must need a collective measures through parenting education, both for fathers and the mothers. In our country, male-female ratio are almost same. So if we do not educate fathers, it means we are by default excluding 50% of our total population out of this education. So when fathers are unaware about parenting, they cannot be confident and competent for their children in dealing any situation. However, our experience in mother schools, we saw most of the fathers who are very keen to know parenting education by how they can also be a good father for their children, who would be trusted and delight in any circumstances for their children. Apart from that, we have evidence that the mother schools brought some positive changes among the family in terms of building trust, mutual respect, and sharing and allowing equal participation in decision-making process. And all those things promote the empowerment of women. So I think the inclusion of the fathers in the education, in the parenting is very important, as equal as the mother, considering our country. Thank you.
So open doors. I think we all agree with you, and we need to bring the other half. I mean, women hold up half the sky, but what is the rest with the sky? It's very troubling what's happening in the second half of the sky. So I agree with you. It is a very important next step as a follow-up, accompanying the educational efforts in positioning family members as security stakeholders. Thank you very much for bringing it up. Sadly, we are very short of time. Actually, we should wrap up in a few minutes. Is there an urgent question in the audience? Otherwise, I would ask you to send us the questions. We are really eager to connect, and we will deal with the questions. Yeah, I wish we would not have only 50 minutes, but 150 minutes. Yeah. Good. So thank you again for the participation and contribution. I would like to kind of wrap up now and tell you what I have heard from you. So you, all the three speakers, emphasize the precarious living conditions which actually can and do put the youth at risk. We have to be aware of that. In a climate of polarization and overall instability, it is a huge challenge for the young generation to find their place in society. And a sense of marginalization, social injustice, and unfulfilled dreams on the personal level can easily be exploited by ideologues, recruiters, drug dealers, and the list is long. They need an anchor, and the adults around them must be prepared to provide a security blanket. But there is a but, with all the praise of family members and mothers. The mothers in their closest proximity are vulnerable themselves. They are often silent and silenced victims. We have to remember that. Today, we have heard that they need a space to grow, revisit their identities and personal needs, develop confidence and skills to be that layer of support their adolescent kids need. And this is a process where you, all three speakers in this panel, are passionately engaged. And this is a process that starts from the bottom up, and it requires leadership of women starting in their homes. I think the leadership component is of utmost importance. Resilience and courage of women, as highlighted by Diana, is a driving force of change making in their respective communities. Fathers from Zanzibar to Bangladesh, and this is good news, are curious and ready to join these efforts. We all want to protect the young people. This is a call to action for civil society to strengthen mothers and fathers. When we support parents to become role models, I strongly believe that the future will also be in safer hands. I think this is our common effort, and I am so happy that that you brought this message in such powerful words. You have been fantastic panelists. I thank you for your inspirational words, and on behalf of Women Without Borders, I also want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for all your dedication and commitment to making your communities visible and more resilient. So thank you for taking the time, making your contributions. And yeah, let's wrap up and continue to work. There's a lot to do. Thank you.